This is Cromar with TGN, welcoming you to another World of Warcraft Cataclysm beta video. This is part 21 of the 22-part series DPS Rundown, and today we're covering the Enhanced Shaman. So, let's take a look at the first big issue we need to go over. Okay, so I'm going to run over to this totem and drop my Trinity Dummy, drop my totems. And here's my Searing Totem. What is my Searing Totem not doing right now? Yeah. So, Searing Totem is bugged in many ways, but one of those ways is that it does not attack Trinity Dummies at all. So this makes it very difficult to, probably impossible, to do a proper DPS rundown. So instead, I've got on my fully decked out level 359 Shaman, and I will just have to do DPS and Heroic and take a look at those numbers and give you an idea of what the Shaman does for DPS. But it's not going to be something that you can really compare on an apples-to-apples basis with other specs, unfortunately. But you can bet that it's going to be high. I mean, that's what you can take away from it. So anyway, let's go over some of these talents here. Now, unfortunately, the spec is built around Searing Totem and Improved Lava Lash and Searing Flames. This is a huge amount of damage, and you really can't pass it up for fights where you can actually use it. Problem is, Searing Totem is still bugged, as it has been since release, and they're never going to fix it. I've given up hope, so we just have to deal with it. Basically, it doesn't target the right enemy ever. It never targets who you want it to, and if there's more than one enemy, sometimes you can cause raid wipes. I mean, anytime that there's CC, anytime that there's multiple bosses where attacking the wrong boss causes raid wipe. I mean, there's a whole bunch of, Omnitron Defense Council and Nefarian and any kind of trash pulls. Trash before bosses, you can pull a boss. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that can go wrong with Searing Totem, so it's just a freaking nightmare. But what you need to do is just be raid aware that you're in a situation where Searing Totem can cause a wipe, and don't use it. And if you're in a situation where you can use Searing Totem, then great, because it adds lots of DPS. Now, besides that issue, most of the talents are pretty simple, except the only problem is that you do not really have enough talent points to get all the DPS talents. And this is something that they're supposed to be fixing for this expansion. So hopefully they give the Shaman Enhancement Tree another go-round. And yes, in case you're wondering, Ghost Wolf is a DPS talent, because any fight with mobility, which is all of them, you have to have some kind of way to close the gap. And granted, some of the classes don't, like Death Knight, I guess, but really they need one too. But with the Shaman, your gap closer is your Ghost Wolf, so you have to have this talent, just like Ret Paladins have to have Pursuit of Justice and the Sprint one they have with Long Range Judgment, whatever it's called. Now, for the remaining talent points, you notice I only got 2 out of 3 in Concussion. This really sucks because I really want the last talent point, that is losing some DPS, for your Lightning Bolt and your Earth Shock, but I mean, what can I take it out of? I really need Call of Flame. I don't know, I guess I can take it out of Call of Flame, but then again, that's your Searing Totem damage, which is very important, and it's also your Fire Nova, which is very important for AoE adds. And yes, AoE and adds is very important in this game. There's a lot of ad-based encounters. The last one that you might be able to take points out of is Reverberation, or maybe Lightning Shield, because the actual amount of damage you gain from Lightning Shield isn't that great. This is a recent... yeah, it's not that much of your damage. So I guess I would say that the number one thing you can take points out of is Lightning Shield, just because it's the increase is fairly minimal. So if you wanted to get improved Fire Nova, or to get the point in Concussion, yeah, I mean that wouldn't be bad. I guess you could take those points out. But other than that, it's really difficult. I mean, you really can't get every single DPS talent. You have no room for utility. You have no room for great utility talents like Frozen Power, which I would love to have. Even Totemic Reach would be useful, but unfortunately, no. That's not going to work. So, anyway, moving past talents, let's go to glyphs. Most of these are pretty easy. There's only one major glyph that's important, which is Lightning Shield. This is the absolute must-have, and you just read the description there. You don't need me to read it to you and tell exactly why. So make sure you have that. The other useful ones, occasionally purging a dispellable magic, that'll help out whoever's on dispel duty. They'll appreciate that. And this is just better for CC control, of course. For Prime Glyphs, there's a lot of good Prime Glyphs. There's way too many good Prime Glyphs, actually. And I decided to... but it's pretty easy to tell which ones are the best ones. Since Lava Lash is probably your second strongest, your second biggest source of damage after... well, maybe third, after Flame Tongue and Melee. This glyph is obviously a no-brainer. Speaking of Flame Tongue, you definitely want this, because most of your damage is based off of your spell crit, not your melee crit, so this is very important. And lastly, Storm Strike, again, more spell crit for your Lightning Bolt and Earth Shock. It's actually a really huge bonus with this glyph. The other options, there's a lot of good options like I mentioned. We have Lightning Bolt, of course. I mean, that's a big part of your DPS, so that's definitely good, but it's just not better than any of the other 3. Same goes for Glyph of Shocking. Even though there's more than one shock spell, the fact you only use one at a time, I mean, this is effectively only affects one ability. There's also a Wind Fury weapon, but keep in mind that your Wind Fury weapon does very little damage now. It's still a part of your DPS, but the actual amount that you gain from this glyph is like absolutely nothing. That's okay though. I mean that represents just a kind of a shift in the way shamans work that started with Wrath of the Lich King and just continued here, and being more and more reliant on spell damage because you're kind of like a nature/fire warrior, or rogue or something like that. You're not really a physical damage dealer. It's only a part of your DPS, kind of like Ret Paladins too. So because of that, I'm perfectly okay with the way that Wind Fury weapon's being devalued. It doesn't, the legacy of huge Wind Fury crits from vanilla and whatnot is not really necessary to continue on. Anyways, moving on from there, the other useful one, Glyph of Feral Spirit. I mean, this is pretty good, but I just can't imagine when I would ever use this glyph. It's just there's so many other glyphs that are so much better. So this is probably better off as a major glyph, I think. But overall, there's a lot of really good glyphs. I mean, there's certainly, more than you can even use. I don't even know. There's still some other good ones in here. I'd really like this Healing Stream glyph, too. Frost Shock Duration, who wouldn't want that? Yeah, so anyway, lots of good glyph choices, but the choices aren't too hard to make. There's a pretty clear gulf between the best prime glyphs and only the okay ones. So let me rebuff here, and we'll see what the rotation looks like. It's very easy to play, and it's good for raid awareness. And this is good for it really. Let me move somewhere I can actually see what I'm doing. It's raid awareness is very important. So anyway, let me get this down here. You're going to basically face roll your first 3 abilities. Now, when you're first starting out, you want to just go ahead and use them as fast as possible. Later on, if you have like say maybe 3 or 4 stacks of Searing Flame, and your Lava Lash is available, you want to go ahead and just wait for the last stack or 2. I really hate doing that because it delays the cooldown on Lava Lash, but it's worth it if you only have to wait about a second or 2. If you have to wait longer than that, like if there's only 1 or 2 stacks, then forget it. Don't wait. Just use it right away. And that just happens like that sometimes. And then of course you have to hit Maelstrom Weapon. When your Maelstrom Weapon stack up to 5, you have to hit Lightning Bolt, and that's about it. And as you can see here, I use and your cooldowns are Feral Spirit and what's your other one? Fire Nova. Now as you see, I'm using my add-on Dot Timer. It's very helpful. It tracks the cooldowns of all my main abilities, and it also tracks my Maelstrom Weapon stacks. It puts it in a place that's readable instead of having to try to scan the buff bar. And God only knows where the buff is located on your buff bar at any given time. That's why it's so useful. Okay, well, it's really unfortunate that I can't get real data for you from the dummies, but what I'll do instead is use heroic data from a recent heroic run, and we'll see what that actually looks like. So this is Lockmaw in Lost City of the Tolvir on heroic. I jumped in about halfway on the video, and as you see, this is a pretty standard fight where you just stand there and beat the boss, although you have to get pull off every now and then, and you do AoE some adds, but I don't think that AoE is significant enough to really throw off the DPS, at least for this class, for my class, because I only AoE them like once or twice. However, the mage's damage gets horribly inflated. Not I should say horribly, it's pretty awesome actually, to like 20,000. Because he puts combustion on the boss and then uses impact to spread the combustion to all the alligators, which is freaking genius, and it does enormous amounts of damage. But anyway, so besides that, I'm able to just pretty much beat up the boss and get a pretty good, feeling for what my real DPS is. And I got about 16k, which matches what I got in a raid, although I didn't record the raid because it was old content that I've already recorded. But I did get 16k on a mob, like a trash mob, I think, one where I could just stand there and beat on it, and on a boss. Which boss was it? I can't remember which boss it was now because it was a few days ago, but it was pretty good, and I was pretty happy with the numbers I'm getting. So 16k, that's really solid for any class in Cataclysm in raids. That's really, really high actually. So let me just skip ahead to the breakdown on my actual damage. You see melee is under 30%, which is really solid. For such a haste built class, that means that you know you're getting a lot of damage from your spells. Flame Tongue and Lava Lash, of course, the top, followed by Wind Fury, and then the rest of your abilities. Lightning Shield, you just didn't add a whole lot of damage. That's why I said you might be able to take 2 points out of improved Lightning Shield, because you're only losing 10% of 6.7, so you're only losing like 0.6% of your damage. But you'll be gaining a lot of AoE with Fire Nova, so that's not a bad choice at all. So again, I'm really sorry we couldn't get actual dummy data. We couldn't get 333 data, since I'm not going to go into a dungeon in 333 gear with all the 359 epics. I get kicked out immediately. But I'm very happy where the Enhanced Shaman is in Cataclysm. It was buffed recently, maybe a week or two ago, and before that it was severely underpowered, so I'm glad that they got it working right. I just hope that they clean up some of the issues with the structure of the talent trees without nerfing it, and I'll be very happy. But anyway, but I was very happy with the results and the actual amount of DPS it did. That's fantastic. I just need to fix Searing Totem, please. Let me use it in more fights. Let me use it on trash mobs without it breaking CC. Whatever. So that's it for the Enhancement Shaman for today. Thank you for watching. This is Cromar with TGN, as always, asking you to please rate, please comment, and please subscribe.